Tired of searching through ads to find bass articles in your favorite fishing magazine? Well, we have a solution for that. Introducing Bass Angler Magazine with over 30 articles in every issue, filled with tips and techniques to help you catch more fish. Follow the pros as they publish the most up-to-date seasonal methods to catching bigger bass. Whether you're a beginner or professional angler, make Bass Angler Magazine part of your gear today. Be a part of the fastest growing bass publication in the nation. Log on to bassanglermag.com with code TV and save 20% when you subscribe now.
That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that. Daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about.
Is it time for your next great fishing adventure to the California Delta? Well, be sure to stop by and pick up the latest tackle at the Hook, Line, and Sinker Fishing Annex inside of Oakley Ace Hardware. It's conveniently located right on the main drag across from City Hall. Now, back to the BAM Pod.
All right, welcome everybody to the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and on the line tonight, I've got the Angler of the Year from the Pro-Am Circuit, Mr. Chris Parks. Chris, welcome into the show, man.
What's going on, Ed? Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you guys and putting this together. It should be a fun little bit.
Yeah, this should be great. You know, Angler of the Year is one of those ones that I've heard guys talk about. Yeah, it's great to win a championship. Yes, it's great to win a tournament. Yes, it's great to win on the circuit or, you know, on the events and that sort of thing. But to win Angler of the Year usually means a lot. And I would love to know a little bit about, you know, it's a strong, this one is 5 events, 4 of them you have to use at least to qualify. You get 1 throwout. You know, you won the Boardman event. You won the overall Angler of the Year by 28 points over Ryan Hall with 993. Dude, I mean, that's 28 points is a lot of points to win by. You obviously were very, very consistent over the year. I'd love to know a little bit about, 1, how does it really make you feel to have won this thing? And 2, what kind of effort, or did you do anything different, but what kind of effort did you put in to this event to make that Angler of the Year?
Yeah, I think, you know, it all starts at the beginning of the season. You kind of look at the schedule, and then you really have to take it one event at a time. I think starting the year off and saying, hey, I'm gonna, you know, focus on Angler of the Year this year. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, right? And I think with this stuff, it ratchets it up, right? So we started Shasta. I had a good practice, had a good plan, had a lot of water going where I had, you know, backups if my first couple plans failed. So I had a lot of fish to run to and saw that the event through. And, you know, I finished in 3rd there, which was fantastic. And, you know, that first event of the year kind of sets the tone, or tried to set the tone off of it. And then the rest of the year, you know, you're going event by event. I don't think this year really got cooking for me as far as AOY until Boardman. Boardman was fantastic, ended up winning the event. At that point, there's 1 more to go, and I had 3 pretty good events at that time. So that's when I really started getting hungry for AOY at that point.
Is that something that, you know, you say you got hungry for it? So was there any changes you made? You're like, okay, you know, I know you're always going to go out and try to win any of the events. That's just the goal. But is there at a point where you're like, you know what, it's the course of the day. I got to get points. I got to get the highest I can get. I need to do is there anything that changed in your mentality once you started to see that as a possibility for the year?
I don't really think so. I think it was just making sure that I, you know, had a nice practice. I showed up with a plan, you know, for Clear Lake, right? I mean, it came down to Clear Lake, and I knew I'd catch them there. And, you know, we finished Boardman up the end of June, so I had all summer to kind of think about that. And it was on my mind, right? Like,
yeah,
how will I approach the lake? Like, first, when I got to Clear Lake, it was like, hey, how can I catch a limit of fish? How can I put a few fish in the boat? And then from there, really taking a deeper dive at Clear Lake and trying to find more and more and more. So you get kind of that first clue. And for me, it was getting down there and practice, and I could really catch them between 5 and 12 feet, right? So if I had, some rock that was tapering out from like 5 to 12, 5 to 15, I ran around the lake, all over the lake. I could get bit. So I took that and I ran with it at Clear Lake, and I figured that out day one, and then just really started diving into my mapping and finding areas that set up the same way and creating a lot of stops. I mean, I think as far as strategy goes, it's like, hey, you create as many stops as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, in practice, evaluate, did I catch a 2-pounder, a 3-pounder off that spot, or were they 6s? And Clear Lake was just out of this world. I mean, it was nuts as far as what was coming across the scale each day.
Oh.
But I mean, that was the biggest bag I've ever weighed in 3 consecutive days in a tournament. So I mean, it was you could ask for no more. And before the event too, watching the weights of the TOCs previous to the BAM event, you knew it was going to be a lot of weight. So there was a lot of excitement to showing up there in Lakeport.
Yeah, that's one of those events that I think people there was a little bit of a buzz going on out there that I had heard about. Guys were like, this is setting up to be a big, big event. And I mean, Colby missed the 100, or not Colby, sorry. Christian missed that 100-pound mark by, God, I just had him on and I just did it. It was like 5 pounds or something. It was not much. That's pretty crazy to think, a 3-day event that can go over the century mark. That's a brutal one. I mean, I don't want to say brutal. That's a great event, right? That's a great event out there.
It's unprecedented, really. You think about it. I mean, the Century Belt's built upon a 4-day event. I mean, that's a tradition. That's a 4-day, 25 pounds a day to hit the Century club, if you will. That bar is set by the elites, and I think it's a magical number. And we ran a 3-day event, and Christian, I think, was 93 or 94 pounds. So he was 1 fish away. So I mean, we would have ran 4 days at Clear Lake. There would have been a bunch of us that hit that 100-pound mark. And there's not.
I mean, you didn't miss it by much yourself, did you? I don't see. I see all the weights. I don't see any of the weights, but you didn't miss it by much. You were right there, right? What was your overall for the 3 days?
So Clear Lake, I had 82.5 pounds for 3 days. So I needed to catch 17.5, 18 pounds on a 4th day.
I mean, that's a solid 1-day bag, 17 pounds on Clear Lake. That is not undoable if you do another 4th day.
It was probably going to happen. I mean, I was catching, the first day of Clear Lake, I caught 10 or 11 fish. I was actually not real impressed by it, to be honest. And then the second day really got going. I mean, I think I caught 30 keepers day 2, and then the third day probably 20. So was really dialing in the numbers of bites I was catching. So getting to go a 4th day would have been pretty sweet, but it's all good. I mean, walked away from that and having a great week and experience, and was able to get 2nd place there. So finishing the year, finished on about.
And then it's a great way to end the year, and you end up with that Angler of the Year title. And kind of going back to that, there was one event in there. And we talked a little bit off the air about this, but Orville's in there, and you're not talking about a lake that is known for putting out big weights, but it's points, right? It's still just points. Now with the throw out, you ended up not being able to, or deciding not to fish Orville. Was that a strategy in this, that what, I'm not set up for that, and I'm just gonna use that as my throw out?
Yeah, I mean, it started so at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, we're starting Shasta. I had a good event at Shasta, so that took some pressure off for the rest of the year. The events were 2.5, 3 weeks apart, so it was No, for me to get down to Oroville is about 7 hours. So it was just, I didn't have quite enough time to make that second event for the trail. And having a good first event, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take Oroville as my throw out. I will fish the 4. I'll get down to the Delta in May. It gave me a nice little gap, so I could come back, get work done and everything, and then recharge and head back to the Delta in April, and then board May into June, and then Clear Lake in October. So they were spaced out well. It's just that second event they were kind of stacked on top of each other, so I took that and did not make the Oroville event. But we went to the Delta, and the Delta was a funny one. I almost bombed the first day of it very, very badly. I had 8 pounds in the boat at 1 o'clock on day 1, and I had ran quite a bit of water. I mean, it wasn't looking too good. I had an area with some fish that were moving in and out and doing a little bit of spawning, and I pulled into a pocket at like 1 o'clock on Friday, the first day, and I caught almost an 8-pounder. That wasn't necessarily planned, I'll be honest. Like, I was like, hey, I'm going to go in here. We're going to look around. If there's an opportunity, I'll try to catch the fish. But you don't normally show up and be like, I'm going to catch an 8 right now. And I didn't see that fish in practice. So it showed up and presented itself. And I caught that fish. It ended up being the big fish of the first day. And it bailed my butt out. I went from 8 pounds, I think, to 15 and a half, 16 pounds. So I survived the first day. And then I came back that night and was like, hey, I got a bunch of stuff up north that I haven't fished. So I made a longer run the second day, ran up north, and it was fun. I had a fun day. I mean, caught a lot more fish up there. I came back with 16 pounds, made the top 10 cut. I think I was in 8th place, but around 8th or so, 7th, 8th, made the cut, got to go a third day, and had a really good day. The third day, I think I went to 17, which was a pretty good bag, day 3, and bumped up to 5th. So the Delta could have been the dagger for the year, truthfully. And I've loved the Delta. The Delta's been a really nice deal, but it almost bit me. The first day, it was so windy that a lot of the stuff I found, my best water in practice, was really kind of just beaten. And they didn't bite. They just didn't bite. They were there, but they didn't bite. So scrambled in the Delta, got out of there with a top 10, which was great. And then had some time to hang out and think about the Columbia. And, man, I went to the Columbia thinking, like, I've got to have just largemouth. Like, I spent a good portion of practice just chasing those down. I didn't think there was any way in the heck to win with smallmouth up there. Well, I was quite wrong about that.
Yes, you were.
Final day of practice about noon, I found some shallow fish set up, and they were good ones. And I didn't know how many were truly there. I didn't know how long it was going to last. I had a lot of water on the river where I could catch fish. I could pull up and catch 2 3/4 to 3.5 pounders. Like, it was, the river fished so well in June this year. That was just a treat. And so I wasn't worried about catching fish, but you're trying to find those 4s or better. And I found a nice group of them. And the first day caught them really well. The second day caught them even better, which was kind of mind blowing. And then day 3, they were strong enough to hold me through the week and finish out that tournament. That was just a killer week. And won, right? So it's the first professional and I've won, which was just a milestone. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, hey, I'm going to win one of these days. Like, I will win one. And, all the stars kind of have to align to be able to actually close out. And they did. So that was a big moment.
And I know, we had you on right after that win. We talked about that win quite a bit. And at that point, you're sitting right there in the driver's seat for Angler of the Year. You got Clear Lake ahead, and then you're sitting there. Now we talked about the Delta just before that. At what point in the Delta were you going, I wish I hadn't skipped Oroville? Day one? Was it day one? At 1 o'clock on day 1 of the Delta, my guess is that at some point you went, maybe I shouldn't have skipped Oroville.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning to the BAM Pod tonight. I hope you're enjoying the show. But right now, we're going to take a commercial break and talk to you a little bit about Excel Marketing LLC. They're your local TV expert, and they have something to tell you about Dish TV. If technology, value, and customer satisfaction are important to you, then it's time to cut the cable cord once and for all. Upgrade your TV experience and start saving with Dish today. Call Excel Marketing LLC at 209-542-4129 or visit them on the web at excel.getdish.com. They're Excel Marketing LLC, your locally owned, operated, and trusted satellite TV experts. Now, back to the BAM Pod.
Yeah, I was, I was like, the Delta was funny. I almost won. I'd kind of accepted dang near that. I was like, I'm going to really bomb today. Like, this is not, it's not going to happen. And I didn't have enough time to do a lot of running. I mean, the first day was really bumpy out there. So it was, I was committed to the Central Delta, and I ran all kinds of spots, and they flat out didn't bite for me. So it was late in the day, and I was like, I was a little bothered by it, but I was like, I was almost to an acceptance stage, if you will. And this great big one presented itself, and I caught it, and I think I called one more time. It was minimal. I think I had an 8-pounder, a 3-pounder, and 3 fish that weighed 3 pounds, I think, in my bag or something like that, or 3 fish for 4 or 5 pounds. Like, they were all, I don't even think they were 1.5, like 130s, 140s. I mean, they were very, very small. And day 2 was a huge adjustment to keep the momentum going. So I thought I could catch 14 pounds if I ran north, and was able to do that and I came back in and was like, 16 a day in that event really wasn't too bad. And that's kind of shocking because, in your mind, Delta, it's April, like you need to have 20 pounds is serious for multiple days. But the Delta's done some weird stuff the last 4 or 5 years, where you're not always sure if you're going to need that limit. So, but yeah, I don't think I'd gotten to the, I didn't go to Oroville stage quite yet. That would have probably sunk in. The first night on the Delta, I probably would have been like, oh man, I screwed that up. But when I started the season, it was all about, hey, I want to make the TOC, right? So I want to make the top 5. Like I said, wasn't really focused on AOY at all. And I don't know if you can be. I mean, you show up and you're like, you've got to take it event at a time. And then for me, it's like, if you go, hey, I'm going to win AOI, that's a lot of pressure, right? You're putting a tremendous monkey on your back. And I'd rather not carry that for the full season. Like, I welcomed it after the June event. I was like, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. But prior to that, it's like, hey, let's focus on Shasta. Let's have a good showing, and then we're going to evaluate if we're going to make Oroville, and then we're going to play the rest of the season out. And that's how it rolled. And it was a great experience. And like I said, a bit of a fairy tale in a way. But my takeaway from doing this now for a number of years is, you've got to put your time in, right? I mean, this stuff doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It's like for me, it's been about a 3-year process. So going to a new body of water, right? I've never been to before. About like 2 years there fishing events. The 3rd year, like, okay, I've got a pretty good handle on it, and I think I can compete. I'm working to shorten that curve, but if I go back, 8 years, it was like, hey, I need to go to the Delta and fish an event I need a couple, pro level events, 100 boats running around out there. And like the 3rd year, things started clicking. And the same thing with Shasta too. Some of these venues that we go to, it's like, the first year I wasn't expecting fireworks, but you've had time there. You've had seat time at these locations, and that's great. But like actually getting out and rolling an event and understanding, how do I need to adjust? How many spots do I need to develop in a practice period? What's a good look like, right? Like, oh, I caught 30, 40, 50 down Shasta. And you're like, well, that's great. Well, but were they over 2.5? Like, well, no, they weren't. But oh, well, okay, then they didn't really count, right? So you have to really know what you're on, and over time, just getting better at understanding, what's a quality bite, right? What's a winning bite? What's a top 10 group of fish look like for multiple days? Because you're not fishing a 1-day event. You're fishing. You're trying to put a plan together for 3. So you have to manage your fish, right? How are we managing fish? Day 1, day 2. On day 3, are we having to expand upon what we've already learned? But it feels like every day is an adjustment. I mean, I would say just about every day this year, there was small little adjustments every day of, hey, I'm going to spend, 20% of my day in this area. Okay, the next day, 10% of my day goes in that area, and I'm going to put more time and put more chips over here. So it's very calculated. And it becomes more calculated with the experience on the water.
I listened to you say that right there. Everything that it just listening to your brain work right there for a minute, right? So do you consider this your best year you've ever had? I mean, obviously you end with the Angler of the Year, so it says and points kind of to yes, but I want to hear from you. Was this your best year ever?
Yeah. This is my best tournament year I've ever had. With BAM, absolutely. There's some other circuit stuff I fish up here too. Had some other wins up here in the Northwest that were awesome as well. And it's been my best year. I feel like, with this sport, you can continue to learn. If you're open to it, right? You have to keep an open eye, open ear, and be willing to be a sponge. I mean, and take in new information and adapt. And the sport allows you to do that if you're open to it, right? So it's really about, for me, just observing what's in front of me, right, on the water, and then taking that in and then creating some sort of, I don't know, analytical formula in my mind to say, I need to stay more in this lane, or I need to change. I need to move here. And I think just over time with the experience, your aptitude to adjust you to the correct move. Because we all get a chance to make adjustments throughout the day. And are you making the right move? Right. And I think that's the hardest part to really talk through and train, because you have to go off of what's in front of you. And when you're on the water, there's so many variables occurring, and they can change, in a matter of minutes. And like, how do you read that? And how do you move? And I feel like just with time, like getting to the point right now where like a lot of it just is clicking. It's clicking really well. And there's a thing of called momentum, right? And right. It's real. When you have momentum and everything's working, like you can ride that for a while. This sport will humble you awfully quick too. You try to limit your bad days. You try to limit how bad they are. And over the course of a season, it's not a sprint, right? We're in for the long haul. This is long distance.
Yeah.
So we have to check in along the way and keep on making the right moves. But, just seeing what's in front of your boat, seeing what's under your boat, just where you're going next, and having a plan. I think a lot, like, you can't just show up and be like, I'm going to catch them on top water today. That's how I'm going to win. Like, I mean, that's probably a good first thought, but you better have a little more depth than that. And I think with experience, you can formulate a plan that's pretty dynamic and allows you to go through a lot of check boxes. I mean, a bunch of them. And so you can be out there for 8-9 hours and you're still working through your process.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the point, it's the progression of what I've heard you say from Boardman all the way till now. It's just the learning and learning and learning. And like you said, you can always learn more. And if you stay open to it, you'll always learn in this sport going forward. Things change all the time. I mean, it's I've said this before, but it's the one lesson I learned when I first started doing all this stuff was Kevin Van Dam saying, you know what, the best thing you can do is learn to lose, because being a good loser will teach you so much more. Because that's, you lose in this sport so much, man. And I think that's one of the things that is so important, watching you win the Angler of the Year. And I will share one small quick story when at Clear Lake we are out to dinner the night before the last day, and Chris is, I don't want to say he was freaking out, but he was kind of freaking out about, how close am I? Am I really close? Am I right there? Am I going to win this thing? I feel like you were finally just you were lost in it. Now I want it. Not just need it, but now I want it. Now I want this Angler of the Year. It just seemed like it meant something more to you at that point. Is that kind of true?
Yeah, I mean, I had all summer to think about it, right? And
Right.
when I ran into you and Mark at dinner that night, like it was the day two had just wrapped, and like I'm like I won AOY. Like someone else acknowledge that? Like, you know, am I the only one that's aware of this? Just going through the points in my head and looking at everybody else and how they placed. And I was like, you know, the first day I had a nice day. I think it was a ninth, which was a good position, which would have granted me AOY. And then day two caught him even better and moved up to sixth place. And like, I'm like, and that was it, right? I mean, made the top 10.
Yeah.
Like it was done. And you know, that evening I was like, everything, all that stuff behind you is over, right? Like, and going out to the final day, like there wasn't any pressure. I think that's the least amount of pressure I ever felt on a Sunday morning for a top 10 was Clear Lake. And you know, I didn't need any other points for the year. Like that was behind me, and it was. And I drew my buddy Joe Cody, which was like, I mean, that's awesome, right? He's on the coast side. He's in sixth place. I'm in sixth place. So we're both like, hey man, let's go have fun. And we ran down to the South Lake, and I mean, like the morning was ridiculous. First fish on my third cast was a 5.5. Like probably two casts later, I caught like a 5.25. Then I caught a 6.5. Then I caught a 7. And that was all in the first 20, 30 minutes of Sunday. And it's like, I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, I'm going to have more than I had yesterday. And yesterday was 28 pounds. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to show up on Sunday with really big. And at that point, then I got a little hungry that morning too. I was like, okay, let's get second. Let's do this. Cause Christian was so far ahead. It was like, you know, that was kind of a pipe dream. I knew we were fishing for second outside of something very unusual that day. And
yeah, I feel like on day 3 there was a lot of people that were no, we're only in this for second. I mean, he would have to have his boat would have had to blow up going across the lake, like literally. That wasn't going to be it. Everybody was fishing for something. We're hoping for second.
I think I needed him to catch like, what was it, 15 or 16 pounds, I think, after I weighed my limit on Sunday. And, you know, he had 25, so I was like.
Yeah, he didn't take his foot off the gas, that's for sure. He put that thing down. So
I knew he had 25 coming into the dock too. You know, I'm like, did he catch him? He's like, not as good. I have 25. It's okay, all right, it's over. And but then I was like, you know, second place would be cool to bump up. And you know, I had a magical day that Sunday, and you know, but Clear Lake was a lot of fun. You know, the first day was probably the most nerve-wracking on Clear Lake, to be honest. I had a minor equipment issue right at blast off, and went to my first spot, didn't catch anything, then ran to like spot 2 and 3. I don't think I caught anything, and I was like, really? And I was a little taken back. Then got a little momentum, got rolling a bit there around 9 a.m. on day 1, and ended up having a pretty decent day, but I didn't catch them as well as I wanted to. I was having to go to 3 or 4 stops before I was getting a bite. So if I ran 10 spots, I would catch 3 or 4 fish. Like that's not very good. And these are spots through the practice period that I located, caught fish off of. So day one was, I had 24 and a half. And it's like, you're grumpy about that, but I was like, not so much the weight. It was how it came to the boat. Like I had to use a lot of water, more water than I wanted to. So day two, going out in the morning, I was like, well, I'm going to have to rotate the other way. I'm not going clockwise. I'm going counterclockwise today. And I kind of moved my rotation around, hit a little bit of water I left on the first day. Actually started on some water that I left the first day. And that was great because Saturday morning rolled out and I had 20 pounds in the boat in 15, 20 minutes. Like it was like a totally different day on Saturday where I had the fish already in the live well. I mean, at that point I felt like, okay, I think I've secured it.
Right.
So Saturday morning, like the pressure came off my shoulder Saturday morning at probably 8:30. I was like, I just need to get back to Library Park by 3 today. And I think I'm going to, and all the pressure was off. And then it just like, the fish just started going. I mean, there was a morning bite on Clear Lake, and then there was a lull from each day between like 8:30 to 11, 9 to 11, somewhere in there where I didn't catch them really, really that well. And then each day about 11:30 where you're kind of starting to get a little nervous, like all hell break loose. And it happened, I feel like each day, maybe even not Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, like 11:30, 12, like there was a bite that came on. And I don't know why, but it happened every day. And so like, just start catching really good ones Saturday, and then I'm coming with 28 pounds on Saturday, and that was cool. And moving to a top 10, you're like, sweet, well, let's go do it again on Sunday. So Clear Lake was a ride, and you know, the first day was a little nerve wracking, and then going into the second morning, I was a little twitchy, and then I eased into it pretty quick. I mean, that fast start Saturday was really good for the mind.
That's all, and when you draw somebody that you really like to hang out with and you really like to fish with too, it's got to take some pressure off there as well. So I know that was, and I guess it must take some pressure off too when you know that we're not in this for the win, so we're just gonna go out and have a good time.
Yeah, if it was like we were within, I don't know, even 5 pounds of Christian, it would have been like, probably it would have been a little bit different feel. I mean, having him so far out, you're like, hey, you can't worry about that. But Sunday was cool with Jim. Got a nice limit. Kind of a slow start, but he got moving about noon. He started catching them pretty good, and he had an opportunity he had a couple of really nice ones come unbuttoned, but I think he still weighed 17 or 18 pounds on Sunday. You're like, well, you take that every time. So.
Well, now we're looking forward, congratulations on the Angler of the Year. I know it has to mean a lot to you to just be so consistent all year long, be in the top tens, making those efforts. And now you've got, a little bit of time off here. I mean, kind of. I know I'm looking for a little bit of time off myself, but it's that break. And then we start again in January back at Shasta. But there's some really interesting ones coming up. We've got next year.
Yeah.
There's some, I believe there's Washington and Idaho up there. There's Boardman, I think, is going to be back on there. So, if you want that second Angler of the Year title, I think there might be a window right here. You've already done it once, so it's just going to be easy to do next year, right?
Well, I mean, I like the encouragement. I'll say this though, right now I'm thinking about the championship. I mean, we have, right? I mean, we fished all year, and the AOY points, that's all behind us. Like the pressure's off at this point. The pressure built this summer all the way up until 2 weeks ago, but now it's like, hey, we made the TOC. We're going to Berryessa in 3 weeks, and there's 25 of us, smaller field, a nice lake that's fishing somewhat well right now, and there's a boat up for grabs. So, like, my mind's wrapped around Berryessa, right? And what how am I going to break down that body of water? I've been on the lake, I want to say probably a dozen times.
Yeah.
Maybe 15, maybe. I've never fished a tournament on the lake.
Wow.
So haven't done that, but I've got some time out there and I'm excited about how that sets up. I like going into a fishery this time of year and, being able to do some different things, right? Down there that I don't get to do here. And, around Oregon, it's a little bit different deal up this way, but down there, can be able to do some spooning, be able to maybe throw some top water still. Like, these are bites that I don't really have access to locally. So when I go down there, I'm like, all right, here we go. Let's try some new stuff. So get to open up the tackle box a bit here in a couple weeks and get down there. But Berryessa should be awesome. The 25 boat field, I think, is perfect. I mean, you get a chance to, stretch your arms out a little bit and not be running 100 boats on each side of you. So if you find something, there's a decent chance you'll get to hop on it throughout the event. And that part's awesome. So we'll do that. And then, it's kind of funny is we'll finish up the event and be like, okay, a little chance to unwind and work on equipment and get the trailer serviced and the motors or all these things that happen behind. It's a lot of work. And then we'll be looking at Shasta. Excited about that, the third week of January. And, you pray that it's not the week where it snows and rains 10 inches on the lake. And you're going to 6. I mean, I'm praying for it. I've been there many times, been through the nastiest stuff imaginable. And, we're going to do it regardless. Right. But, January can also be a beautiful time in Northern California. So, Shasta will happen, which will be awesome. And then, get, it's New Maloney's, which is the end of February.
Yeah.
You got Delta in May, and then bumping up my way to Potholes, the end of June. Never fished Potholes, never been on Potholes. Heard great things. It's the most popular tournament lake in East Washington, and for a reason.
Yeah.
So look forward to getting some time up there, and then back to Boardman in July, which is a month later than what we did this last year. So I believe there'll be a few things going on a little bit differently, but Boardman and that pool is just, it's a fantastic fishery. We got to fish it and the tour was there, and I mean, these guys just clobbered them, and there's a lot of water to sift through, a lot of open space up that way. So that'll be rad. And then hopefully look at Almanor, right? You've got 15 out of each going. So you have a 30 boat field on Almanor for a TOC in September. So looks like a ton of fun. And I mean, I can't wait for next season, but I'm more excited about it.
As I say, still got to finish this one out. One more that would absolutely be a great one to win, man. Nice payback, nice, boat sitting right there up on the line. It's right there, man. It's all tangible. You've had a great year. You've had one of the best years you've ever had. You've got the momentum right now, dude. That boat is looking you in the eye. Like it's calling you. It's calling you. You can go out to Berryessa and get this thing done, So, let's see what you can do, Chris. It'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of really good anglers there too, and guys that have some more.
Come on, you're the angler of the year, though, man. You're the top man right now. You're the dog.
You got to give credit to the rest of the crew, man. There's a bunch of super good men out there, and you got to approach each one of these with your own plan, right? And I think that's one thing too. You got to develop all this on your own. You can share general ideas, but you've really got to go find your own stuff, execute on it, and build. But running down there is going to be a blast. And on a a newer body of water to me is. I mean, that's exciting, right? I mean, I enjoy going to places I've been many times, but something new that has some room and space that's fishing pretty well. It's fished pretty good the last year or so down there.
Yeah. Should take some good weight to do that. But this is going to be a 2-part show, and Chris, we're going to move on to the next angler after the commercial breaks right now. So when you guys come back, we've had Chris Parks on here, the Pro-Am Angler of the Year. Congratulations on that. But when we come back from the commercial break, we are going to have Colby Pearson, the guy who did it on the Pro Tour and pretty much dominated the Pro Tour this year. So come on back and we'll see you in just a bit.
Hey folks, Randall and I want to talk to you real quick about choosing the right electronics mount for your bass boat.
Mark and I have been partnered with Bass Boat Technologies from the very beginning, and we know the quality and effort that Van Foster has put into this company.
Custom, that's the one thing that I think about whenever I think of Bass Boat Technologies. Van Foster has spent years, not hours, years perfecting these mounts. He works with just about every bass boat company out there, most models for every bass boat company out there. He has spent the time working on these bass boats. So what you get is a custom fitted mount, not some mass produced universal mount for every bass boat out there. Van makes them custom fit for your bass boat.
Bass Boat Technologies also makes a lot of other custom parts. Seat pedestal plugs, tool holders, steering wheel spacers, and battery trays are all made with the same attention to detail that Bass Boat Technologies is known for.
Bass Boat Technologies is a vital part of our livelihood, and it's very important to your overall boating experience also.
Absolutely, and that's why we choose Bass Boat Technologies. Check them out at bassboattech.com. You'll be glad you did.
All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the second half. We just had Chris Parks on. I hope you enjoyed that portion. But now we have the second Angler of the Year this year, and that is Mr. Colby Pearson. Colby, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, appreciate it. Glad to be back on again.
Yeah, I tell everybody, you win, you come on. Well, you got to do it twice at the beginning of the year. Now you get the Angler of the Year. You get to get back on the show. Man, you've had a heck of a year, I know there are guys out there who fish for a long time, and you've been fishing for a long time as well, but I just feel like your year this year, we talked to Chris earlier and I asked him this question. Has this been the best year fishing wise so far of your life?
Yeah, definitely. It's been a bit of a breakout season. Man, looking back at my career so far, and it's still a pretty young career. I've been competing professionally for about 6 years now is all. I kind of just, every year I've had like a themed pedigree almost. The first year fishing pro-ams and stuff, I kind of was like maybe getting a check here and there, missing a check here and there, but kind of close in the mix type thing. And then kind of just scaled my way up to the point where I was getting a lot of top tens, and I knew I was kind of flirting with the potential to win some of these things. And then this year to be able to seal 2 events and then also bag Angler of the Year on the Pro Tour, man, it's a huge culmination of all these years mounting to kind of like a little bit of a high point, so it's definitely been a huge year.
Yeah. And you didn't just get 2 events, you got 2 events back to back, which is just absolutely difficult in its own right. And you didn't do it like close to home or lakes that you've been, fishing all your life. You went out there, you went all the way down to Arizona, got that one, came back up, hit Almanor. Now, when you got you got your first one, you get your second win, were you at that point even thinking of Angler of the Year, or were you just like, I just want to keep this momentum going?
Honestly, I think about Angler of the Year all the time just because I've been close before.
Okay.
In other Pro Tour circuits we've had out west, I think I've gotten some top 5 finishes and things like that. And, I've always strived and tried to be the most consistent of an angler as I could possibly be. Coming from the financial background that I come from, not a lot, you know what I mean? Kind of just getting myself into fishing and maybe convincing a family member to take me. I've always just been working really hard to try to pay my entry fees and stuff. So I had to really, really learn how to get checks and events in order to show up to the next event. So I'd say the Angler of the Year has actually been on the forefront of my focus. You always want to fish to win. But Angler of the Year to me, man, really means the world.
Yeah, I said this before. I feel like it is the one thing that just says, you know what, you can win a tournament. Anybody can go out and win a tournament. Anybody can go out and win even 2 tournaments. But to be so consistent all year long, take home that Angler of the Year trophy, man, that has got to mean a lot. I mean, it just shows how good of an angler you are, how consistent of an angler you are, and how determined you are. Because, I'd like you to just kind of touch on that a little bit. How much do you have to just like, okay, switch gears and go, I really want to nail that Angler of the Year trophy at this point? Is there any point where you just went, that's what I'm going for? I know, like you said, I know you're always going for the win, but at some point there's a switch, and it's like, I got to get points. I got to make sure I know I'm not going to win this one. I mean, there's some pretty good tournaments out there. I mean, I don't feel like Thermalito. I don't feel like you were fishing for first at that one.
Tackle Warehouse has been the premier online tackle shop since 2003, with a huge selection of not only the latest and greatest from the biggest brands, but the hard-to-find regional specialties as well. Tackle Warehouse. Click, save, fish.
Yeah, for sure. And good observation on that. I'd say that my gears kind of shifted towards really putting AOY on a pedestal at the Columbia River event.
Oh, okay.
I knew that was going to fall into kind of my wheelhouse and my strong suit. Anytime, anywhere we get to go fish for smallmouth, I'm very, very confident in my abilities, and really the amount of time I spent fishing for smallmouth, I'd say it's on par with most everybody, as even people who are way, way older. I mean, that's what I love to do. Coming from the Pacific Northwest, that's where most of my relevant experience really comes from, especially in a Western circuit. I just have so much more volume fishing for smallmouth than most guys. And then getting up on the river, I'm very comfortable on the river. I've fished quite a bit of moving water, and it just kind of fits my style pretty well. So I'd say the Columbia is definitely where my gear shifted and said, hey, whatever you do for the rest of the season, make sure you're poising yourself to attain that AOY title, and then, like you said, at Thermalito, I was just hanging on for dear life. I knew that Thermalito wasn't going to be a strong suit for me, but I did know that if I could make a top 10 at that fishery, it would be extremely difficult, almost impossible, but not quite. We had a shootout all the way to the end. So, I knew if I had a good finish there, it would be close to being locked up, and Ish, who was closest to me, would have really, really had to essentially almost win that event. So I wanted to put the pressure on him to do it. And I mean, honestly, props to Ish and a few other guys who are within reach, because Ish had a fantastic season. He's an absolute hammer, and to duke it out with angler of his caliber, at the end is all I could have ever asked for. You know what I mean? If, to have someone of that level be the guy who could knock you off in the last final moments, I mean, that just really goes to show his skills and accolades on the water. So props to him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the pinnacle of it all, right? I mean, you're going out there, when you're talking Angler of the Year, normally you're talking about some pretty darn good anglers that are in that race right there. The consistency is there, their ability to, I mean, I talked to Ish before. I mean, he was vying for that. He was not giving it up. He wasn't like, you know what, it's Colby's close enough, I'm just going to give it to him this year. That wasn't his attitude. His attitude was he came in there to, he knew from, even like you talked about with the Columbia, we were up there talking about that. He's like, I have got to finish in this place at every one of these next events, because that's where I have to be. So he was thinking about it. There were other guys. And when you get to a place like Thermalito Afterbay, I mean, it's a tough fishery in general. But when you got a guy like Ken Maw that just, I mean, he didn't just win that thing. He kind of walked away with it pretty good. There was he had it figured out. And to go up against guys like him, that's got to be a lot to you. And you just said it a little bit, that's kind of the way you want to fish. And I hear guys say this time and time and time again, and I know you're one of those ones that believes this. You always want to fish against the best talent you possibly can. And that's why you're on the circuit that you're on, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the Thermalito situation, same with the Delta, same with Clear Lake. It's really a David and Goliath scenario for me. Coming from Oregon and fishing a lot of these California fisheries where you maybe have to be flipping, punching, fishing tules, heavy reeds, Thule Islands and things, I simply do not have that here. I do not come from a background of having much experience on those fisheries. So although I have fished, pro-ams out west for about 6 years now, that's about the amount of times I've been to most of these fisheries, like say the Delta. So I've only really been on a good punch bite 6 or 7 or 8 times. You know, I've only ever flipped and punched big Thule mats 6 or 7 or 8 times. So I was really cognizant of that going into the Thermalito event, where, you know, you have Ken Ma and Ish Monroe, and they're like the Mike Tyson, and I'm like the new guy on the league, and they got a whole different fighting style that I can't even identify with, you know. So
are you telling me you're the Glass Joe of all this whole thing right there?
Yeah,
you come in winning 2 tournaments, and you're coming in saying you're Glass Joe, man. I tell you what, I don't know if you can. That's pretty good words right there. Those guys, I mean, they're definitely awesome anglers, but you know, you held your own this year. You held your own, and you proved a lot to a lot of people.
You know, there's different, you know, there's places I shine. You know, looking at Ken and Ish and guys like that at a flipping, punching, chatterbait, shallow water, largemouth fishery.
Right.
I think that a lot of these guys would have the same take when they look at me when we go to a smallmouth fishery. Like, hopefully, and you know, not to put words in anybody's mouth, but like, on the largemouth fishery, I don't really want to tangle with Ken and Ish if I don't have to. You know, obviously I want to fish against the best guys I can, but I recognize them and respect them for the anglers they are with the skill sets that they have. You know, and I know that a lot of my peers reflect the same respect towards me when we get into my wheelhouse. And, you know, my wheelhouse is Columbia River smallmouth, Almanor smallmouth.
Yep.
I fish a ton of reservoirs, so the schedule next year is looking awesome for me in that aspect too. I'm excited to get down to Pedro and do that stuff. Southern Oregon, that's what I have. Reservoirs, we got rivers, and I got a lot of smallmouth, a lot of nomadic largemouth, and I fish for spotted bass down at Shasta a ton. So that's more my comfort zones.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the schedules, and you know, you talked about getting over to Almanor, and you really wanted that lake. This year, I feel like you got that lake. Like, you did what you needed to do. I mean, you went up again. I mean, Mark Pilgrim lives on that lake. Let's just drop that out there. And he was going for, you know, he was going for the knockout punch as well right there, and you still lit it up. Do you feel like, you know what, you finally got a little something from there now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a bone to pick with Almanor. I recognized it as a fishery that I could win at. You know what I mean? And I was at the U.S. Open last week fishing Mojave. That's a fishery I can win at. You know, sometimes you just launch your boat somewhere and the feeling is just electric, and you can kind of work on that fishery almost as part of the fishery and identify the fish's habits and behaviors and use it against them. You know what I mean? There's just places I go sometimes. Columbia River's another one where it just, for me, clicks. You know, so instinctively I'm on the pulse of what the fish are doing, and I feel very confident. Almanor absolutely shut me out the last time we fished an event there, so I needed to go back there this year, and I needed to get that win for myself because I knew that I could, and I really put in the prep work for it. You know, I've spent some time at Almanor, you know, before the off limits. I practiced very, very hard. I thought about it to no end, and to have some of my suspicions and theories pay true and pay big dividends, man, it's pretty epic.
Yeah, I mean, it should be next year too. I mean, we're looking at, you know, some really good fisheries. I think that, like you said, I mean, there's Pedro out there. There's some events that I think the Super 60 is going to change a lot. And, you know, I know that this was an amazing one to get. You know, you got this Angler of the Year. We talked with Chris about the same thing. You know, on the Pro-Am side, he got the Angler of the Year. You do it on the Pro Tour. Next year, you know, it even changes again. This whole BAM trail is just going through a metamorphosis, and it's trying to find where it's going to be for a long time and what it's going to be on the West Coast. Winning this first one, winning the Angler of the Year here, you know, there's some guys out there that did it, you know, multiple times. Is it something that you're going to always focus on from here out? Like, hey, you know what? I've won this thing once. I want to stack the wall with trophies that say AOY on them.
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
Yeah, I'm super, super thankful for the wins and for the trophies and for AOY and just like we talked about, it's been a phenomenal year. I'm as a person, I'm very much so not fixated on like personal accolades. Every day is a new day, and I've found in my career that I have to push myself to perform as if I haven't achieved anything. You know what I mean? So I do give myself the credit. I take the period of time to lament on my successes, but man, as soon as one's over, I'm focused on the next one. And my goals are big. I want to fish professionally full time at a national level. And in the way I see it, with just a lot of aspects of this industry right now, like I need to perform on the water and kind of try to buy myself off this coastline. I've been pretty open with that before. I have amazing sponsors who support me to no end, and some of them are some of my great friends, and I can't thank them enough. But I'm kind of identifying for me to maybe get enough money to go and chase my dreams and fish back east. I just got to keep winning events. I got to keep performing at a super high level. Hopefully I gain attention from endemic and non-endemic companies. I work really hard for my sponsors on and off the water. But, I know that winning solves a lot of problems for me, and I need to just keep performing at a super high level if I'm going to accomplish my goals and my dreams, someday. So I'm very committed to that and doing what I need to make sure that every day that I launch my boat, I'm working the hardest I possibly can.
I know that is one of your goals, is to make the national level and fish, fish, and you've said back east. I would love to see the West Coast emerge into something that a person of your talent, a person of your skill, a person that is who you are can make a living right here. With the way that the BAM trail is going, is that still something that you're just like, nope, I got to go back there and fish with my buddies. I got to go back there and fish against these guys? Is it such a thing that we're just not big enough name out here yet to keep you here?
For my personal goals, it's entirely based in just a pact with a younger version of myself. And when I was super young, I just want to fish the nation. I want to see the waters. You know what I mean? I want to taste this at the most extreme, highest level across the national, spectrum.
Right.
That being said, I've been running businesses since I was 20, 22 years old, quite young, pretty high skill businesses. And in the metrics, in terms of finance, payouts, and structure that Bass Angler Magazine and the Super 60 and the BAM Tour is bringing to the table, I honestly think that it rivals or far surpasses any other pro circuit that there is, period. I was looking at some payouts from other circuits 10, 15 years ago, and they're phenomenal and incredible. But present day, I'm just going to say it. I've looked at the numbers and I've crunched them as many times and ways as you can. And I'm here to say, like, the BAM Super 60 payout is probably the most angler-centric, long-term business model payout structure that I've personally seen currently. So my goals nationally, because I want to fish nationally, I want to dive in head first, and I want to fish new places against new people who are maybe some people I've watched, some heroes and things of that nature. Right. But I'll be also the first to admit that what BAM's bringing to the table for the Western angler to make a career fishing is probably one of the better lucrative opportunities as an angler to fish professionally as their job. So both. And I'm super thankful. Next year I get the opportunity to do that. I hope that I can do it for years to come. If I were to go try to fish nationally, I'd love to do both. There's guys who are going to be doing that, I think, next year. So that's the ideal goal for me. If I could be one of those guys someday, that's the type of guy I want to be.
Well, yeah, we're fishing with a guy who does it now. Ish Monroe's out there and he does it.
Yes.
And, it can be done. And if you set those goals up there, I know what it's like to look out there and go, but I want to fish Gunnersville. I want to fish this.
Yeah.
I want to fish that. I want to fish, Lake Okeechobee. I want to fish. I get that part of it, man. I fully agree with you and understand that whole portion of, when you see some of those big names out there. For me, it was the Roland Martins, the Bill Dances. I wanted to go fish against those guys. I wanted to be out there and doing that sort of thing.
And for me, it was awesome when, Aaron Martins was here and you got to see him fishing here. And then all of a sudden he's back there doing the thing that he loved doing, back there, in the back east doing his whole thing, man. It was amazing to see. And we've got young guys that just had on here, they're doing it still. And I think that it's something that I would love to see out here because we have those same big names, I guess, in waterways. And you guys are creating some of them as well. I mean, the way that you guys fished Boardman, Oregon, and we went up there and fished the Columbia River. I mean, all of a sudden the Columbia River got a little bit of stir. People were like, I kind of want to go fish that place. Clear Lake, Clear Lake, just, the the pro-am down there. And, that was to be, 6 pounds away from the century mark with a 3-day. Ostrander did something that, a lot of people haven't done ever. And he was amazing in bringing that out. I think the names of the lakes out here, the California Delta, Clear Lake, Oroville, or not Oroville, but Almanor, and, in the Columbia River, I think those things have really shined and really popped now. And guys are wanting to come fish these things. Like, you did even Arizona, going down to that river down there and fishing the lakes and the rivers and all the different, backwaters on that place, man. You guys really woke up some people to what the West has to offer.
Yeah.
So I think that, when you say that, I get it and I understand it, but you guys are making some big waves out here. And, taking home Angler of the Year this year meant you fished all of those great waters consistently enough to take home something. And you did it against the guy that's fishing nationally and here in Ish Monroe. So that's, just props, man. I mean, you guys have just done amazing things.
Yeah, thank you.
I would love to see, I'd love to turn on the TV and see you out there fishing. It'd be awesome. I mean, I love to see that when you do that. I know that fishing, back east and making a big name like that is something that it's hard to do out here all the way yet. But it's, you guys, like I said, you guys have just done it out here. You've really woken up what the West has to offer. And I think that's amazing. And, going forward with the Angler of the Year here, I hope next year, you get close to that thing again and get to take that chance and push hard. Now, do you think it's going to be more difficult to try to go against the Super 60 now? I know a lot of the guys aren't changing name wise, but there are a few coming in that are some bigger names coming in too. Is it something that's going to be a little more difficult with the caliber of people that are stepping up for this Super 60?
Yes and no. The reason that I say yes is I don't want to do any spoiler alerts, but there's some guys coming in that I respect the heck out of. You know what I mean? Some of them are people that when I started fishing my pro-am career, I looked at them and I said, hey, that guy right there, I want to be like that guy at a very specific basis. So in that aspect, there's definitely some guys coming in that are going to be, really, really tough competitors. In the no side of things, the one thing that's going to be different next year is with 60 competitors or more, it's going to separate the points gaps a little bit more. The thing about this year is you had myself, Ish Monroe, both of us made every single top 10 of the regular season. So 4 events, consecutive top 10s. So the point spread didn't really allow for any big differences in points because there was only the 30 guys. You know what I mean? So there's only a 30 or 25 point gap between, say, first place and almost last place, right? So we made all 4 top 10s. We're really close in the points race. But next year with 60 guys, it's going to be a little bit easier for someone to fumble, where it's going to be a little bit harder maybe for somebody to win. So it's going to go back and forth. I know I'm a consistent angler. I just hope that next year I have as fruitful of a season, and I'm going to be fishing for every single top 10 because that's who I am as an angler. I know I've won. I know I'm a champion, but at the end of the day, I got to buy myself the opportunity to go fishing on Sunday. I got to be there on championship day. And I've recognized that in the last few years fishing these type of events, and just I fight as hard as I can to get myself that opportunity to be there on the day that someone's going to get crowned. So that's what I'm going to worry about. And then Sundays are for Sunday fishing, and then that's when I'm going to go swing for the fence. But
Yeah, I mean, awesome, man. I love to hear that. That's a great, you're thinking that whole thing through. And I kind of look at that 60 and I just go, wow, there are going to be some really good. I mean, don't get me wrong. Right now, you're fishing against some really good anglers.
Yeah.
There are some top names. But yeah, adding another 30 guys on top of that, woo, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
yes,
fun.
sir.
And do you to sway off a little bit here and to kind of I want to hear this out of you. You talk about going back east. Do you worry going back east that the first year or two, all the momentum you have right now, or if you said, hey, you know what, I'm just going for it, I'm going to go fish back there, I'm going to do that. Do you worry about, you know what, I'm just going to get my teeth kicked in for like 2, 3, 4 years and I'm not going to go anywhere? Or are you just like, nope, I think I can do it no matter what because of the kind of guy I am?
I honestly think that the level that we fish, Pro-Am, Pro Tour, and above, I think that we all need to recognize, and hopefully, I know I feel this way, when we launch our boats, that we can win. You know what I mean? When I launch the boat to fish a tournament, I'm confident in my skills. I'm confident in the time that I put in. And honestly, fishing these Pro Tour events without practice has helped me build my confidence on the water into a level that I previously wasn't really familiar with. The reason being is because when we get no practice, we have to launch our boats knowing that our instincts and our core skills and our time on the water and ability to observe the conditions around us are functioning at the highest level possible, that we're willing to show up somewhere we maybe have never been, like say Lake Martinez on the lower Colorado River. I've never seen anything like it, but I know who I am as an angler. I know how hard I'm willing to work, and I know how close of attention I'm willing to pay when it really matters. That when I launch my boat, I know that I'm capable of winning, almost regardless of the results. So if I were to take that same context and apply it to a national level, I am realistic, and I know that it's super hard. I know there's a lot of those fisheries I don't know, but as long as I have the time to prepare, as long as I can get the time on the water to observe the things I need to observe, I do believe in myself, and I do think that I will find the things I need to observe and be able to apply them and make adjustments accordingly. I don't think I'm going to walk into it and just pass every test with flying colors. I mean, hardly anybody really does. Look at the Bryant Smiths, the Ishman Rose, the Christian Ostranders. Andrew Loberg qualified for the Elite Series from the West Coast this year. My buddy Lane Olson and one of my best buds, Jacob Wall. A lot of the guys who make the leap from the West maybe have a tumultuous path getting there, but man, almost all of them qualify or at least succeed pretty highly at those fisheries. So I just love to be the next one someday.
Hey, I absolutely think you can do it. That's not even a thing. I watch guys go out there. You look at the Mark Daniels Jr.'s, you look at the Ski Reeses back in the day, even back then, those guys they're still out there. They're still fishing those events. They're still doing very, very, very well. It's an up and down game, and I think it's a game of attrition when it comes to traveling that much and being a part of that. So yeah, like I said, I'd love to see you go back there. I'd love to see you do that. I'd love to see you represent the West Coast, and I would also love to see the West Coast represent. We've done it before. We can do it again, and guys like Aaron Martins have won the biggest events out there. And he did it. He did it with everybody saying he was fishing fairy rods and didn't know what he could do and everything else, and he went out there and beat some of the best. So. It's an impressive deal. This sport is so it's a tough sport, and I don't think people really understand how difficult it is. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why our West Coast is so overlooked, is that they don't really get what it is you guys have to go through and what you have to do. I mean, winning Angler of the Year this year just proved how much time and effort you were willing to put into it. I would love to see that shown on the West, out in the West, I guess. I would love to see the sponsors come. I'd love to see the people look at it and go,
wow, these guys are working hard out there. I say it on the stage all the time. You guys work hard. I don't think anybody gets how hard you really work. I mean, you're in a business, and you've run businesses for a long time. Is this still the hardest you have to work out of all the businesses you've done?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the amount of effort, energy, focus, et cetera, that I have to put into fishing is 200% anything else I've ever done in my life. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And if you would ask me, I bass fished my whole life. If you'd asked me when I was a young man, said, hey, how hard is it going to be? I would have not even been able to enumerate close to a fraction of how hard it actually has been. And I think that, Ed, is what makes the West Coast guys as good as they are, is you have to really want it. You have to cut your teeth. You have to make so many sacrifices out here. I mean, the distances that myself and the guys on the BAM trail travel this year and most years, I mean, a lot of these guys are going 16 hours plus just to get to one certain event, depending on their region. So you think about the national circuits, they're kind of comprised of a general southeastern region with a little bit of a northern swing. The Western guys honestly rival that in terms of mileage traveled a lot of times. You couple that with the inaccessibility of some of these fisheries in terms of distances, the cost of living, the fuel prices and traveling, lodging, et cetera out here.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why the guys from the West Coast are so damn good, on top of them having the versatility within the fisheries that they get to experience out here, it's because you can't just like to bass fish and fish professional events out here. Typically, you have to really be ate up with it. You have to absolutely love the sport and be willing to make the compromises to really put it on that pedestal. And that's why the West Coast keeps producing guys that are just absolute monsters on the water.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's awesome. We've got about a couple more minutes before I have to pull the plug on this one, but I want to talk about one last thing real quick. It's championship season, man. We are going to the championships now. You guys are going to be on, let's see, this was California Delta, for the championship. How you feeling?
Yeah, I feel great. I haven't fished the Delta a ton. I hadn't fished Martinez a ton. I really haven't fished Almanor a ton for that matter. So when I get to launch somewhere with a fresh perspective, it's been off limits for 30 days. These guys maybe have years and years of experience down there, and that is going to pay dividends, I'm sure, for some of them. But I get to go launch at the Delta with a fresh new lens. You know what I mean? I've been down there enough to know kind of how to navigate. I have a general idea of what those fish maybe want to be doing in the fall with some different bait fish migrations. I've been looking into the tides, and I have some areas of the Delta I'm really, really confident and comfortable in. I've done well at the Delta in the past. I made top 10s in the Western Shootout, as well as a couple Pro-Am events down there before, and weighed in some fish, 8+ pounders and things. So I'm going to be looking for those guys. Just like I said earlier, I'm going to be fighting like heck on the first 2 days of that event to make sure that I get a chance on the final day to go shoot it out against the best in the West for the championship. And, I've never won a boat. It'd be a heck of a time to try to pull that off.
That would be awesome. Well, Colby, I got to wrap it up, man. Thanks for coming on and talking about this. Congratulations on the amazing year you had. Congratulations on Angler of the Year. And I cannot wait till next year. But first, we got to get to those championships, and we got to see what can be done out there. So, hey, ramp it up. Get ready, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. And Colby, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Anytime, dude. Glad to be here. Thanks to you. Thanks to the crew at BAM. And I'm ready to build this thing in the West with all the guys.
Absolutely. Let's make this thing great out here for sure. Everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm going to sign this one off. I hope you enjoyed this show. Chris and Colby did great jobs both securing their Anglers of the Year. And, it was just great to be out there and watch them doing it. So see everybody on the next one in a couple weeks. We should have another great angler.